Welcome to the Eazy Benefits Blueprint podcast. I'm Hugh Doyle, CEO of Eazy Benefits.
I'm joining here today, Ben Wolkowycki from Eazy Benefits. Super excited to chat retirement.
Good, and special welcome to our partners, Wealthsimple. So I'd like to take this moment to welcome Gren, who is a director of business over at Wealthsimple. Gren, maybe you'd give a quick intro?
Of course, great to see you guys. Thanks for having me. Yeah, so my name is Gren Austin. I'm the director of Wealthsimple Business. Simply put, I'm in charge of group retirement at Wealthsimple. So working in the retirement space, the workplace savings space. Joined the company about 5 years ago to sort of grow this product line and get into this part of the industry, and love the journey ever since I got here.
That's awesome. Thanks, Gren. Gren, tell us, Wealthsimple, household name. So obviously we're super excited to be a partner of Wealthsimple. We'll dive right into group retirement, which is, the space we obviously play in. Tell me, modern retirement, let's just chat on that. What does that actually mean, or what does it look like in practice today? Because I know Wealthsimple is looking to be leading edge on modernization. It's a household name that people know. So I'm super interested in modernizing group retirement. What does that mean in your world?
Yeah, it's a great first place to start. One of the best parts about being at Wealthsimple is we have a huge client base, and we get to talk to them a lot and hear from them about what they think about the products, the financial space, how they feel about the economy and their own savings. And when you talk to them and ask them about what they think of retirement in general, I think it starts to look really different than I think the conventional understanding we all had. We did a survey a little while ago, and it was about 75% of Canadians between 24 and 44 years old say that conventional idea of, working till you're 65, retiring, and sort of taking on that next chapter of your life is a completely outdated concept to them. And then when you dig a little further and you ask them, okay, what does it actually mean? What do you actually want? It's a pretty wild story. Like, it looks different than that sort of conventional approach. Depending on where in that audience you fall, they sort of see it not as a destination, but part of the mix. They care about things like home ownership and travel and building up savings, but they want to experience life along the journey. They don't want to just wait towards the end. And so that might be coming in and out of the workforce. That might be entrepreneurship. That might be, taking a big break in their career in the middle and coming back to work later on. It's a pretty different sort of hybrid approach than I think the conventional thinking. And then so from our side, on the group side, if that's sort of the landscape of how Canadians feel they want to plan their finances and their retirement over the next couple of decades, that really obviously puts a pretty big different spin on what group retirement will look like, what benefit plans will look like. It's just a really different way of thinking about what this Canadian group is saving for and aiming for.
Yeah, and Grant, it's interesting you brought up, and you and I recently worked on a case, quite a large national account, and they had no idea of how to use group retirement for home ownership. So I think, you brought up lifestyle, I'm going to call it, or life choices, like maybe taking a career break, home ownership. And just for our listeners out there, I bring that up because it was our most recent file we worked on together. But maybe you can give a bit of background on, when people hear about group retirement, they're not necessarily saying, oh, I can use that for my first home. So do you mind just giving a little bit of further background specifically on how to use group retirement for home ownership?
For sure. I think it's such a good point. And, it is a relatively recent development in a lot of ways. The industry started, as pensions, right? And so it's all retirement focused all day long. There was this understanding that it was important for employers to help their employees save for that end goal, which is retirement. I think a couple things have changed. Obviously, we still believe retirement's very, very important. Don't want to give the impression that it's not. But Canadians are at a different point as they're in the workforce and sort of maturing through their careers. I think the numbers are roughly that the average age of a first-time homebuyer in Ontario in 2025 was 40 years old, up from about 34 years a decade ago. That's like a radical shift in sort of when they get into their first home. And so that sort of milestone, that life accomplishment, hasn't necessarily happened for as many people in the workforce as it would have 10, 20, 30 years ago. And so we really emphasize and focus and are encouraging a lot of flexibility and choice within a group savings plan. I almost said group retirement plan because we're so used to thinking of it as that one goal. And so, within that, there's a ton of different options. The easiest one is account types to include. The feds launched the FHSA, the First Home Savings Account, a couple of years ago. We weren't sure necessarily at the beginning, would this be really popular? Would people just sort of, they have RSPs and TFSAs, would they adopt a new account type? Short answer is yes. At Wealthsimple, we saw about 30 to 40% of all the FHSAs that were open in Canada were opened at Wealthsimple. And so we saw this need within, especially the younger cohorts. And so, we've built that into our group product as well. We think they should be a tool and option. They're not right for everyone, but especially if you have like a younger demographic workforce or people who are interested in buying homes. And again, it's not always as young as it used to be. It's that sort of middle cohort now who's still working to buy a home. If that's my goal as an employee, having an employer support that goal, put the match contribution towards an FHSA within the group structure is like a really meaningful benefit to me if that's my sort of current goal. And it allows me, with a flexible plan design. And I know this is one of the reasons why we like working with Eazy Benefits is that sort of modern, more progressive approach to thinking about this. I think of it more as sort of add more to the plan as opposed to take things away. So add that group FHSA in, make that an option for the younger employees. And then as they accomplish that goal and get their first home, then they can start switching their savings to that sort of retirement piece and that sort of more classic, GRSP or DPSP combo plan that we've seen a lot of. But I think adding, the group FHSA in is a really easy way to start to modernize that plan and provide a little bit more flexibility for a workforce that wants, different things at different stages.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I come back to, I definitely used group retirement a few times. So thank you for correcting me. Group savings. I love that. The other thing I love is just, what we're about as a company, which is allowing employees choice and flexibility. So love that. Like just flexibility. That's the key. I think most people look at a group savings plan as, we alluded to, a group retirement plan. But I think we need to change that a bit and just look at it and say, hey, we can give employees more choice. So that's one of the reasons I love partnering with Wealthsimple. Modernized approach and choice for the employees.
Yeah, just jumping in off what Hugh said, Gren, from Wealthsimple's research, what is changing in the way Canadians think about retirement?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is we have to sort of reckon with the economy of today or the sort of financial challenges of today. There is a real sort of affordability crisis in Canada. We talked about that home ownership piece being delayed or, being accomplished later for so many Canadians. And because there's sort of those challenges and there's a ton we can sort of run through there, Canadians feel a lot of stress. They are thinking about their finances a lot. They are worried about them. There is data that says about 65% of Canadians feel the stress about their finances, and a good chunk of those, about 30% of those, will directly say that stress impacts their productivity at work. So there's sort of a productivity loss as well. But there's a lot of data around, again, that idea of, well, what is retirement or when does that come up for them? So if you start to look at savings goals by age, you sort of see the under 25 cohort. It's about trips and experiences. Perhaps like we've all been there. We all took that sort of backpacking trip through Europe after college or university. That maybe hasn't changed all that much. The 25 to 35 cohort, though, is still looking for that home. The 36 to 45 cohort may also still be looking for that home if they haven't accomplished that goal. But that's when they start to shift towards retirement. And that balance of meeting Canadians' needs and their sort of desires with their financial goals today, while also sort of keeping that big picture towards retirement in the long run, I think is one of the challenges for sponsors, for advisors like yourselves to go in and try to build that flexible plan that can do a little bit of everything. But the Canadian mindset is definitely different by age demographic, so it speaks to that need of flexibility. And, it's more fluid than it used to be. They're going to come in and out. They're going to try different things. They're going to have different stages of the careers. The days of I'm going to work for one company for 35 years are pretty well over. People are moving pretty consistently every few years. And that plays a role into sort of the engagement and the retention strategy that a sponsor is going to put out there to make sure that their plan works for their employees.
Yeah, that's a great point, Gren. One thing you mentioned was stressors for Canadians and financial education. So I just want you to dive in a little bit more on what resources you guys have for financial education. It's definitely something that we focus on and we see a big stressor around at the Eazy Benefits side.
Yeah, it's such a good question, and this is one of the reasons why I think our partnership is working so well. One is, live real advice, like with advisors who know what they're talking about, who can support complex decision making in the moment. That's a really big piece, and that's, Wealthsimple is known as a tech company, but we do have lots of people and lots of humans for clients to sort of speak with and connect with. I think on top of that, there's this concept of right place, right time, and not every person is going to want a certain piece of education at any given time. We just went through tax season, and so taxes were top of mind for people. You might do an educational piece on saving for kids' education or buying that house. And that piece may be relevant to me in this moment or may not be. And so one of the elements that Wealthsimple really leads into, pulling back on that theme of technology, is providing resources and libraries and different ways, social media, content on the platform, access to advisors in our app, to really sort of fuel that education piece, so that when I go through those big moments in life as an employee, I have the right education, the right knowledge at my fingertips. And that's not going to be just one format. And again, that speaks to sort of the fit with Eazy Benefits and Wealthsimple, is putting a premium on that sort of modern technology platform to help enable the education so that people can have an easier time to find it and connect with the right people. And having that sort of progressive lens helps build that plan structure, which leads to the good educational piece.
So Gren, just moving on to kind of the partnership and chatting a little more about Wealthsimple and Eazy Benefits, what's different about our approach, and I speak in a joint approach, Wealthsimple, Eazy Benefits, than maybe you would see traditionally with other carriers and other brokers? Just looking maybe for your perspective on that.
Yeah, the couple pieces that stand out to me, one is Wealthsimple is not, we're the new players in this field. Like, we know we're the sort of the new entrant. And one of the first pieces I've loved about Eazy Benefits is just being modern and progressive in your approach, but also doing the hard work to understand our platform, understand where we fit, understand what Canadians are looking for and sponsors are looking for, and trying to find the right sort of pairings. You guys have really taken on a strong amount of that at work. And then the second piece is sort of that white glove aspect that you guys, I think, bring to the market, maybe more than anyone else, which is to really cater to your clients. It's sort of quick responses and sort of a dedicated team approach to that. And I think that's not everywhere in the market. And it's been really positive for us to see again a progressive player in your side of the space really do the hard work to understand us, to see where there might be a fit, and then really take care of the clients. I think Wealthsimple is obsessed with sort of taking care of the clients, and we see that sort of natural modern fit with you guys as well.
That's awesome, Gren. And I'll kick it over to you as well, Ben. You're dealing with it day to day, and maybe you're a bit more, not maybe, you are 100% more in the weeds on a day to day with our clients. What are you seeing?
Yeah, we're seeing great technology. I mean, the ease of onboarding is great. What we're actually seeing is really great feedback on the onboardings from employees. I mean, we're seeing about 83% plan participation on average, which is great. Super above average. So we're getting that positive feedback on the technology piece, but as well as the onboarding from employees and plan sponsors.
That's awesome. Well, it's great. I've just learned something. We're getting 83% plan participation when we team up with Wealthsimple, so that's great to know. Gren, I'll lead into this and maybe answer it a little bit myself, but what should employers do next? What's next in terms of exploring what's out there for group savings plans?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. It's sort of the primary conversation that we have with so many sponsors and advisors these days. To me, there's sort of three conversations that need to happen. One is putting the onus on the sponsors to talk to their brokers and to their advisors and really challenge them to come up with a fresh look at how they might approach their plan and their employees. And, if the advisor isn't coming back with something that sort of stretches the envelope or is at least something really novel to look at, call you guys, I think, is the easy answer. Really put that challenge to your partners there to say, what could this plan look like if we thought about it from the ground up? The second conversation, I think, people should have, especially the sponsors, is look at your own personal finances and what apps and technology and platforms you use. Look where you find certain parts annoying or full of friction. Look for the pieces that you actually enjoy using or check in often. And then sort of say, does my group platform sort of feel the same? Is it up to speed? And sort of use that sort of own personal experience to drive what you think the technology or just the whole experience should look like. And then the third one is talk to employees. Ask them what they want. This is supposed to be a tool for employees. And I think a little bit at times we can sort of say we know best. We know what this should look like. And the answer is they're going to have strong opinions and we want to meet those needs. And so ask them, what are their goals? What technology or platforms do they use? How are they thinking of their finances? And work collaboratively with you guys in the room to say, okay, if we know this is what the employees want and this is what we see in the market, how do we bridge these two things together? And I think that's where the strong connection. So again, talk to the advisors, talk to you guys at Eazy Benefits. Look at your own personal finances, what you use, what you like, what you don't like, and then talk to the employees. Ask them what their goals are. See where they're at. Every employer demographic is different, and so understanding what their specific needs are should be the underpinning of what drives a great plan.
That's awesome. Gren, just to close, thank you so much. We've loved the partnership with Wealthsimple. Modern approach, flexibility. I think the message I'd leave with is, don't settle for status quo. There's a lot more to be done in this space. And I think clients need to look at modernizing the approach. So look, thanks again. This has been great, Gren. A lot of fun.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you guys. Looking forward to the next case we work on together. We'll talk soon.
Chat soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Gren.